My wife, a 46-year-old female, was well connected to the women in the area. She was a social butterfly and was always out. Whenever she told me, a 41-year-old male, that she had a meeting or some social gathering to attend, I believed her without question. For 8 years, she organized countless events and was known as the most dependable source of gossip in town, all while maintaining over 40 friendships. One of her close friends was a woman named Virginia, who was also married with 2 young children. I believe my wife was envious of Virginia's lifestyle, as they were well off and lived more luxuriously than us, even though our bills were paid. One day I received a call from another friend of my wife's, Samantha, who was concerned because she hadn't seen my wife in a while. This was alarming to me, as my wife would usually go out with her friends at least twice a week. When I asked Samantha if she had been attending the usual women's events that my wife would usually be at, she confirmed that she had. She also mentioned that she wasn't the only one who hadn't seen my wife, but she was the first one to reach out to me. It seemed like my wife had disappeared from their lives. She was in the middle of planning a 5K to raise money for needy families in the area when she suddenly went quiet. She had told one of her friends that she needed some space, but it had been about 2 months since she had shown up to anything in person, so they were worried. Just as I got off the phone with Samantha, my wife entered the room. She was dressed beautifully, with dangly earrings and a form-fitting dress. Her curls bounced and her heels clicked as she told me she was leaving for a big dinner with some friends to celebrate Samantha's birthday. This was the same woman who had just called me concerned for my wife's well-being. I knew something was seriously wrong. My mind was racing and my heart was pounding. I couldn't just let her leave. I grabbed her hand and kissed it, telling her I would drive her to the dinner so I could spend more time admiring her. She was extremely nervous and tried to tell me I didn't have to, but I insisted repeatedly, making the situation awkward. In the car, she gave me directions to the dinner, which was being hosted by Virginia, her close friend who was also married. As she mentioned this, a post on Facebook from Virginia came to my mind. It was about the week-long trip she was about to take, and my wife had commented on it, wishing her safe travels. This was just 3 days ago. My heart wouldn't stop racing, and I started to sweat as I gripped the steering wheel. I didn't know how to handle whatever was about to happen. My wife caught my attention again, saying she didn't understand why I insisted on driving her when I would have to rush back home to catch the kickoff. I knew what she was trying to do. She wanted me to feel like I didn't have to worry about her. I didn't have time to walk her to the door or investigate her lies any further. I joked with her, saying I didn't have to catch it, one of the players would. She shifted uncomfortably, waiting a minute before saying she felt bad. I couldn't come inside, since it's a girls-only dinner. I could feel my anger growing. She was talking so suspiciously. I parked the car and, to my wife's horror, turned it off and unhooked my seatbelt. She tried to give me a kiss and told me to pick her up at 9. I said okay, but I still got out of the car and walked with her. She stopped looking at me. I said I wanted to walk her to the door like the gentleman I was. She said I didn't need to and told me to head home. That was a pretty deliberate denial, but I just smiled. I walked up to the door in front of her, and that made her super nervous. I knocked hard and she was just frozen. Her mouth was hanging open. I looked at her and it was all I could do, not to laugh or point out how odd she was being. AP opened the door wearing a soft-looking robe with his initials. He looked pleased for a split second, but it quickly turned to nervous panic. I spoke loudly. I said hello and stepped inside, saying I was just bringing my wife to the women's-only dinner, hosted by Virginia. I asked where all the women were. Neither of them moved. I sarcastically teased my wife for saying she was going to be late, when clearly she was early. When they continued standing there with their mouths gaping, I pointed out the dinner table set for 2 with 2 filled wine glasses and pretended to have a puzzled face. AP started turning purple, but he remained silent. My wife weakly said the girls were running late. I loudly said, "Oh, really?" and asked where Virginia was. Seconds passed in silence before my wife said she probably just ran to the store for something. She tried to ask AP to back her up, but he was clearly frustrated. He said there was no point in playing games, and I clearly knew they were lying. He said they were caught and it was game over. My wife finally looked upset. AP ordered us out of his house, nearly pushing us out the front door. Right before he shut it, I said it would be a shame if anyone told his wife what was going on. He froze, looked me in the eye, and asked what I wanted. I told him to send me any proof he had of his affair with my wife, so the divorce would go in my favor. When he hesitated, I told him there was no reason for 2 marriages to end, but I would take him down with me if he didn't help me out. He reluctantly agreed to send proof. My wife lost it when she heard him. She just screamed, took the keys from me, and drove off. I got a ride back home and found that my wife had packed some of her stuff and took her car. I received AP's proof. It was a combination of messages and images. If I had any doubts before, they were now answered. They had definitely had sex many times. I tried to wait until after the divorce was final before I told Virginia everything, but I couldn't wait. It wasn't much longer after that Virginia started getting revenge on my wife. She knew where her mother lived, and since we were getting divorced, it was a good guess she'd be staying there. It's speculated that Virginia was the one who slashed my wife's car tires and carved an unflattering word into the hood. AP and her divorced, and my ex was exiled from the community of women. Now she has absolutely no money, friends, or husband, and nothing to show for her 46 years of life. OP, I am so sorry your wife lied to you countless times and started an affair. It's never easy to get through something like this, but at least you know it wasn't your fault. There's never an acceptable reason to cheat on someone. I believe she did this because she was envious of the life Virginia lived, and by sleeping with her husband, she felt better about herself. Be thankful for the life you have and make it a goal to always look after yourself. At the end of the day, you will be the man looking in the mirror and need to be proud of what you see. That starts with taking care of yourself, including your skin, which is why I am excited to have Teej Hanley as the sponsor for today's video. They help men start and maintain a skincare routine by simplifying the entire process. Honestly, it's the best skincare system for guys like you and me. I recommend you start with their Level 1 system, which comes with all the basics. These include a daily face wash to get rid of the dirt and grime on your skin, and a twice per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of dead skin cells. It also comes with an AM moisturizer with SPF 20 to protect your skin from the sun, and a PM moisturizer to help your skin stay hydrated and healthy throughout the night. My favorite part about Teej Hanley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. They really make the process of achieving and maintaining amazing skin easy. Their products have made my skin look and feel better than ever, but you don't have to just take my word for it. They have over 7,000 5-star reviews on their website from satisfied customers from around the world. In addition to amazing skin, members of Teej Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price, the ability to customize your box, exclusive monthly deals, and free US shipping. You can also pause or cancel your membership at any time. And because Teej Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click the first link in the description and you'll get 30% off your first box, plus a free gift. Don't miss out on this amazing deal. Click that link and get started today. Now let's jump into our second story for today. My wife, 42 female, thought it would be a great idea for me, 39 male, and our kids ages 12 and 14 to take horseback riding lessons together. We've been together, excluding a 3-year separation, for 14 years. During that separation, I had moved out of state into a tiny studio apartment with my handicapped brother. He was much older than me and in poor health. It wasn't the kind of situation I could bring my family into, and our parents had passed away. Sadly, my brother passed too, after I cared for him for the last 3 years of his life. My wife and I agreed not to see anyone else during this time, because our marriage wasn't ending. It was just an inconvenient living situation. We met up countless times at a halfway point so I could visit with the 3 of them and keep our marriage strong. Still, the shortest length of time we had to wait was 3 months. It wasn't easy, gas was expensive, although not compared to today, and the kids hated being in the car for so long. We tried not to complain because after all, we were the lucky ones. My brother wasn't able to have a family of his own or take care of himself. I had faith that nothing would ruin the relationship I had with my wife. So that brings us to what went wrong. These horseback riding lessons were extremely fun, and all 4 of us laughed quite a bit. I thought it was great bonding time, even though I felt there was something strange about the riding instructor. His name was Alan Pravich, but we'll call him AP. Even though he tried his best to play it cool and give us equal attention, he didn't look at anyone as much as he looked at my wife. I noticed he was a handsome horse guy, and my wife liked that. They flirted a little, but to the untrained eye, it could have just been playful chatting. AP flirted a little harder whenever he thought I wasn't looking. He'd wink at my wife, do the eyebrow raise, and even touched her butt in the saddle. I didn't want to cause a scene in front of our kids, and I didn't want to cause a rift between me and my wife. This was supposed to be fun bonding time for our family. I didn't think anything was really going on between them. It was surely harmless, fruitless flirting. One day, I was cleaning the security cameras of our home when I got the urge to check that week's recorded videos minute by minute. Imagine my surprise when I came across my wife in the backyard at 3 a.m. having sex with another man. I dropped my coffee cup, which crashed onto the floor. It woke up my wife and she rushed in asking what happened. I showed her the video, screaming before I slapped her and called her a cheater. I didn't know that our kids woke up and were devastated by what they could hear from the hallway. Their mom cheated on their father with the man that gave all of us horseback riding lessons. In her desperation to make it up to me, she told me everything. This man was actually her ex from years before. I asked her how long ago it was, and she revealed that it was during our separation. She really didn't want to answer, but she was sobbing and desperate to make it up to me. She admitted she met AP while I was living with my brother. It felt like something knocked the wind out of me at that moment. I asked her if they slept together back then too, and all she could do was nod. It had only been 2 years since I moved back in with my family. I just looked away and tried to focus on my breathing, while she explained that she knew he offered riding lessons and would agree to teach us all for a cheap price. She said she honestly didn't think that this would backfire or that anything would happen between them again. She didn't intend to start an affair, but that's what happened. This was basically the same affair that I never knew about. I asked how many times they had sex, and she said since I moved back it was only this one time, because they didn't have anywhere safe to do it. There were cameras all over his farm, and his wife checked them all the time. She saw my surprise and disappointment when she said he was married too. I realized I was looking at someone I couldn't trust. She probably didn't think I would happen to check this week's security footage, minute by minute, and if you had asked me 10 minutes before I decided to, I would have told you that was a crazy idea. But lo and behold, for some reason I did, and this was the outcome. I told my wife I wouldn't forgive her for this, and the kids entered the room to tell her the same. Hearing that from your children isn't easy. She really broke down and didn't know how to handle herself. She decided pretty quickly to move out due to excruciating embarrassment and shame. The days leading up to her departure were extremely awkward. The kids only wanted to speak to me and pretended she wasn't there. I did have a conversation with them, saying that even though their mother cheated on me, she was still their mother, and they only needed to take this poor decision of hers as a lesson on what not to do when they grow up. Now we've been divorced for a few months, and she only comes in the mornings to feed the children before school. Anyone my wife knew quickly found out that she was the reason our family fell apart. I'm not sure where she stays now, but I know she's far from being able to afford a place of her own. As for AP, I told his wife what happened and offered to send her a clip of the video. She thanked me, but that was it. I guess if I was more nosy, I'd know if they were getting divorced too. OP, I'm so sorry your wife cheated on you while you took care of your brother. Not only that, but she reconnected with AP, knowing what happened before. She didn't tell you anything about what happened, Instead, she put you all in close contact with this man. Divorce was the better option. It seems as though your children helped you make the harder, wiser decision. Your wife wasn't thinking about anyone but herself when she flirted and had sex with AP behind your back. It takes a cold, selfish person to cheat on their spouse and hide the truth. Even though they surely wouldn't want someone to do it to them, they do it to the people they claim to love. Claim to love. I believe you and the children handled this as well as anyone could. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.